Working for me. Great. So we just started recording, so I think we're good to go. Okay, well, welcome everyone and hello. Happy, what day is it? I guess it's Tuesday, right? So welcome to you all and thanks for everyone coming into the chat. We've got lots of people coming in today. Thanks for joining over your lunch hour. My name is Annie Kilberg-Smith. I'm with Triangle Associates, and I'm going to be your facilitator today for this webinar hosted by Puget Sound Energy. And as you can see on the screen, we are focusing on customer priorities for a clean energy future. So whether you're here to learn or ask questions or just stay informed and up to date, we're really glad that you made time to be with us and that you're taking time away from your lunchtime. So feel free to have a little bite, drink, snack, and listen away. And we are going to prep you in just a minute on how to ask your questions. I'm sure you'll have lots of them. You can also see you have access to the chat. And I see everyone saying hello. So hello there. And today's session is really part of a broader effort to plan for a clean energy future. So your participation really helps shape how that future takes form. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. So before we dive in, a few things on logistics. We want to do a quick check on technology for you all. So you'll see your Zoom controls either at the bottom or top of your screen, depending on which device you're using. And that's where you can find closed captions in multiple languages. You can send a question through the Q&A tool, or you can react with emojis. We're going to be using the Q&A, the question and answer box, throughout the session. So feel free to drop your questions in there as we go. They will either be answered live in typewritten form and resolved, or we will answer them verbally as we go. We know we have a lot of people attending today and a lot of information to share in just an hour together. So your question might be just responded to in writing, and it might not always be verbally responded to. So just be patient with us as we try to work through as many as we can. And as a reminder, this is a webinar format, so you're not going to see the other attendees, but our panelists will be responding to your questions when possible. And then questions will also be included in a webinar recap, so you can see those reflected later. You can go to the next slide. So a few quick notes just to make sure we have a smooth session together. We want to just request that you keep your questions focused on today's topic. We also want to just emphasize that PSE is going to do their best to answer as many questions as we can live, and then anything else that doesn't get answered today will be addressed in that follow-up recap that I mentioned. And then if you think of something after the session, you're always welcome to reach out using the feedback form or by emailing ifp@psc.com, and we can put that feedback form into the chat. And yes, this meeting will be recorded and shared on YouTube, and it's currently being live streamed on YouTube. So thanks in advance for keeping things constructive and focused today. We really value your participation and are looking forward to hearing some of your questions. Okay, next slide. All right, so for our safety moment today, we are in the middle of storm season. So I want to just make sure that you all are taking a few steps to stay safe. So before a storm, make sure that you have an emergency kit accessible and unplug sensitive electronics like computers. And if you're in a flood zone, make sure to review basic flood safety tips. We've got some links for you to check out here. They're also in the PowerPoint presentation with hyperlinks. And then during an outage, we want to make sure that you're using flashlights, not candles, to avoid fire risk. So make sure you have plenty of batteries. You want to keep your fridge and freezer doors closed to preserve your food. Never use a gas range, indoor cooker, or grill for heat. And then keep PSE's outage resources for updates. And a little preparation really goes a long way in keeping your household safe and warm and fed during some of these outages. Okay, next slide. So now let's go ahead and meet today's team. You're going to be hearing from a couple different folks. We have Ray Outlaw, Manager of Communications Initiatives. We have Heather Mulligan, Manager, Customer Clean Energy Solutions. We have Tom Smith, Supervisor, Customer Energy Management. And we have Malcolm McCulloch, Manager of New Products and Services. So they're going to be guiding us through conversations. I'll be facilitating Q&A, and want to just say thanks again to Ray, Heather, Tom, and Malcolm for being here to help us walk through what PSE is doing and what it means to be customers and what that looks like for all of you. Okay, next slide. So after we get through this introduction session, we're going to set the stage for how we have gotten to this point. And so PSE will be doing that, Ray particularly. And then Heather's going to be talking about why customer participation is essential to PSE's clean energy transition. Next up, then Tom and Malcolm will be walking us through load flexibility and how shifting energy use supports grid reliability. And then Heather will then share customer solar opportunities, followed by Malcolm with battery storage options. And then we'll end for final questions and a brief wrap up before we sign off. And then there's always an exit poll that we'd love to get your feedback on. So when you exit out of the webinar today, just remember that will pop up, and it's really helpful for us to hear your feedback from today. And then we have an evening webinar that's going to be covering the same exact agenda, topics, and folks that are presenting. And that will be tonight from 5:30 to 6:30. So if you have to cut out and want to join back later for that one, we'll be sharing the same information then. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we're going to jump into just a quick refresher on how we got to this point. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Ray to kick us off.
Thank you, Annie. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Would you mind going to the next slide, please? I'm going to be really quick here just to make sure we get time for the actual content. You're in the fourth of a series of webinars about our integrated system plan. We've had 3 leading up to this point. Those are on the left side of the screen, which talked about what is an ISP, how do we plan for the future, and what kind of resources we might use. And today we're here to talk about customer resources, so things like solar, batteries, demand response, et cetera. We'll talk a lot about those details. I also want to point out that as we head into 26, there'll be multiple meetings like this as we continue along before we reach our draft resource plan late in the fall and our final resource plan in early 2027. If you missed any of those first 3 meetings, no worries. We're going to put in the chat links to the YouTube videos of those meetings, as well as the meeting information, so you can catch up if you need to or want to. And you can always follow up with questions via our email address, et cetera, which will have details at the end of the slide. I think that's it, Annie. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather to get started with the stuff that you're here to talk about. Thanks.
Thanks, Ray, and good afternoon. Thanks for being here today. I wanted to get us started in today's webinar with some information just about how we see the importance of customers participating in our transformation to clean energy being so critical as we move forward. So if you moved on to the next slide, just to set the stage, PSE is definitely committed to a journey toward a cleaner energy future, but we want to acknowledge that there are complexities that we must address along the way. Demand for electricity is increasing significantly, with current forecasts showing that energy consumption is likely to grow to about 15% in the next 20 years. This is a result of things like electric vehicle charging, state building codes that favor more electrification, increasing installation of air conditioners, and an upward trend in new large customer load requests. So in order to support this growth and transition to cleaner energy, we're expanding and modernizing. PSE has to add large-scale renewable energy projects as well as distributed energy resources to our portfolio in order to support this growth. But these resources are intermittent and don't always generate when the power is most needed. So next slide, please. That leads me to the importance of our customers and the role that they'll play in this transition. What we're seeing is that in the past, the relationship between the utility and our customers has been fairly straightforward. You flip on a switch and we make sure that the power is there to turn the lights on for you. This hasn't changed. However, we do see a future where there's more of a partnership with our customers. Customer-owned assets such as thermostats, residential solar and batteries, or even electric vehicles are helping to unlock opportunities for the utilities and customers to work together to innovate and meet rising demand. For instance, demand response programs incentivize customers to reduce or shift their energy usage during periods of peak demand. like during a cold snap or a heat wave. And in the upcoming slides, we're going to talk more about these distributed energy resource programs serving our customers and how you can participate in the transition to cleaner energy. Next slide.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Oh, yeah, thanks for going back to the questions. And Heather, we're going to pause and take questions from folks right now, just on that information. I'll check to see if there's any live questions to ask. In the meantime, there was one question we wanted to just see if we had some waterfall items on, but before we do that, I do have kind of just a couple logistical things. Looks like our YouTube stream is just having some issues, so just wanted to let you know if you are trying to join from there, just try to join as a participant here in the meantime, and we'll get that resolved rather quickly. Did want to do a reminder about the gift card raffles for attendees today. So there will be a raffle after today's sessions, and winners will be notified after today. And then one last reminder, if you could please just make sure you're adding any of your questions that you have for PSE to the Q&A pod instead of the chat. That would be super helpful. The chat we're trying to reserve just for messages with each other and for waterfall interactivity moments. So any questions for PSE, please go ahead and move them over to the Q&A pod, and that way we can make sure we track them there. Okay. So I'll just check to see if there's any questions live to respond to. Not seeing any yet. So I'll just take one more moment and give you all a question to interact with us for a moment on. If you go back to slide number 12, Claire. Just we wanted to ask folks if you've taken part in any of PSE's renewable energy programs. One more slide. For your home, and if so, it would be super helpful if you type what those were into the chat. So for example, green power, solar choice, community solar, or net metering. And I'll go ahead and put that question in the chat for everybody now. Again, have you taken any part in PSE's renewable energy programs for your home? Just be great for PSE to know if you have, and which ones. Okay. Net metering, community solar flex, great to see that. Solar PV net metering, community solar. Some people have not. Rebate on appliances, great to see. Okay, all right, perfect. Well, thanks for bringing those in. And I see that we don't have any live questions right now. All the ones in the pod are gonna be answered via chat, or sorry, via text, sorry. So I'll go ahead and keep us going, Heather. And so you can go 2 more slides, please. We're going to move into the load flexibility now and into the future section. And we've got Tom Smith and Malcolm McCullough to present on this. I'll hand it over to you two.
Hey, thanks. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this. My name's Tom. I'm the supervisor for the demand response portfolio at Puget Energy. That means residential and commercial industrial demand response. I'm already seeing this answer in the chat a little bit, which is exciting, but just to kind of frame the conversation a little bit, I wanted people to think about, as we dive in, how many times they've heard the word flex or had a neighbor say, I got a flex event notification or anything like that to kind of help us think about what we're going to be talking about today. If we could move to the next slide, please. So for the uninitiated, PSE Flex is a demand response program that can come in a multitude of different forms and shapes and devices, but ultimately what it is it's a portfolio of different measures that a utility can take in conjunction with customers to reduce energy usage during really specific times of day. There's a lot of different benefits for this, both for customers and utilities. For customers, you can earn money for participating. You can help increase resiliency in your community. And for folks that run small to medium businesses or larger C&I facilities, they can help save large amounts of energy or improve their operational standards by kind of creating energy savings plans that are responsive to grid needs. So it's not just earning money, but it's also building resiliency across the board for any type of customer inside our service territory, which is pretty cool. Let's go to the next slide. A little bit of info, some primer on what demand response is and how it works. Basically, I can tell that a lot of us here are familiar with how energy supplies work, but basically every once in a while, it'll be really hot or really cold. People are using a lot more energy than we typically do, which might exceed the typical amount of energy we're able to generate or procure on the market. So what we do is we talk to different devices in the home or at different commercial facilities and say, hey, can you use a little bit less energy for a little bit of time? And then we create a little bit of demand reduction, which helps us maintain reliable energy delivery to the entire service territory. Why don't we keep going? So when you might hear like flex event, what is that? How does it work? Basically, flex events occur between a summer season, which is between May and September, and a winter season, which is between November and March. Typically, they'll occur between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., between 2 and 4 hours each. One key thing to note, though, is the number of events that can happen from season to season. It depends on the type of device. There might be more events for a battery than a thermostat or an EV, for example. You do get to have a wide number of options for participating, depending on the types of devices that you have in your home, or if you don't have a device, there's still options to participate. But notifications can also vary by those devices and typically come about a day ahead. So you'll hear from us if you're enrolled in a program in various forms. Sometimes it's a text or an email or a phone call. And if you have a smart device, sometimes it appears in the app or directly on the device itself. But we have a wide range of support options there on our pse.com/flex website for you to learn more about how your specific device or non-device actually receives notifications, so you know that an event's happening and you can participate in it. Let's go to the next slide. Cool. So not a pop quiz, but a review of what we were talking about just a couple slides ago. This is really how it all works. Now, I will note that this example here, this graph, is based off of a commercial and industrial partner. But if it's a residential application, like if it's just you or me in our home and we get a Flex event notification, it's basically the same deal. It's just the KW number is smaller, right? So instead of 800 KW, it might be like 3 KW. But basically what happens is our trade floor will see a forecast that says, hey, there's a lot of energy forecast to be used here. We'd like to call a demand response event. We call that demand response event. A bunch of notifications go out. People either manually adjust or allow their devices to adjust their energy usage accordingly. Energy usage goes down. That's the respond part of demand response. And then a couple hours later, you'll see the energy go back up when typical usage kind of levels out outside of those peak times. So pretty simple, straightforward concept, but it's really important to make sure we all understand those basic concepts so we know why we're doing it now. Yeah, let's keep going. So this is a really dense slide. It's a little bit of an eye chart, but we'll make it easy. So the reason I put this slide here is because I really want to demonstrate how many different ways there are to participate in Flex events. Whether you have a thermostat, you can enroll in FlexSmart or an EV, or you have a home battery or a compatible water heater. And maybe if you don't have a device at all. I love that. Join the Flex Core. That's great. So again, if you don't have a device, you could join something like Flex Rewards and just get rewarded for making manual interventions in your home, like pausing on running your dishwasher or laundry, or maybe read a book instead of watching TV. Simple things like that. But it's really important to understand that we've created an ecosystem here where pretty much anyone, anywhere, anyway can participate in a Flex event, regardless of if you rent an apartment or own your own home. There are ways to enroll and participate. And I would encourage people to ask themselves, do I have a thermostat in my home that's compatible? I wonder. Let's find out. Let's go to FlexSmart website at pse.com/FlexSmart and see if my thermostat's compatible. If you have an EV, do the same thing. If we go to the next slide, I'll show you a really easy way to find out if you can participate or not. I'm willing to bet that if you're in this webinar, you can. But the easiest way to find out is just by going to your My PSE account, and there's a nice blue tile there that says FlexSaver. If you click in and log into your PSE account through that, you'll have a whole bunch of different options to select from. You can see Flex Rewards is there, your EV is there, your EV charger is there. So if you have any of those products, you can just click on that tile select the people that made your device, like a Nest or a Tesla or something like that, and just start getting enrolled right then and there. It's really quick to enroll and it's super easy. All you have to do is log into your My PSE account, which I think is really cool. There's a couple of notes here. You'll probably see at the bottom, there's a thing that says Flex Events. If you don't have a device enrolled in the program, or you aren't enrolled in Flex Rewards, our behavioral program that doesn't need devices, you may be enrolled in Flex Events. Flex Events is our opt-out demand response program, where you can receive calls or text or emails. So you know if there is a major Flex event happening, then you can participate, and you can contribute and help add to the community benefit aspect of what we're doing here. If you want to get paid for that, I would really encourage you to check out Flex Rewards or Smart or EV or any number of the programs that you could enroll your devices in, so you could actually earn for all the great participation that you're contributing to and maybe not getting paid for right now, but could. Then finally, the ecobee grid resiliency. If you have an ecobee thermostat, you do have the ability to enroll your thermostat in a pseudo demand response program where you may only get called on during extreme events. So I'll give an example. Show of hands, who remembers Martin Luther King Jr. weekend a couple of years ago? I sure do. Sometimes during those sorts of conditions, you can have your thermostat in a state where it will respond to grid conditions. Those being an example of grid conditions where you aren't necessarily enrolled in a program and you may not necessarily be in a position to participate in demand response regularly, but you really want to contribute when it really, really matters most. Like in MLK Jr. scenarios, and that would be the type of program that you could enroll in. A lot of the time, it's an automatic enrollment that happens through ecobee, but it's a good thing to be aware of if you get a new ecobee and you're trying to get enrolled in a program, just to make sure you click, yes, I want to be in the community-powered events. So yeah, in summation, for residential customers, it's really easy to enroll in a Flex program. I really encourage you to go to pse.com/flex or just straight up get into FlexSaver through your PSE account and start clicking around, start enrolling. You can be in any number of these programs. If you have a thermostat and a battery, you can enroll both of those. The only real restriction we have is you can't be in a behavioral program and an automated program at the same time. All that really means is if you're in Flex Rewards, you can't be in the other programs. But if you have any devices, you can lump all of those together and really maximize your savings and earnings, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the commercial industrial demand response program. We want to go to the next slide here. Cool. So this is a little more straightforward. We basically have three programs. We have our peak demand program that has about 6 to 10 dispatches on average per season, both in the summer and winter. We have our emergency program where, again, extreme grid conditions, we'd only call it maybe once a season in, I hate to use the word dire, but in extreme circumstances. And then we have an option for people to be in both programs so they can maximize both their earnings and their savings depending on the type of grid conditions that exist from season to season. Now, these types of programs require a lot more heavy lifting in terms of identifying best fit programs for individual commercial customers. Typically, we take a few months to really get to know the facilities and make sure we create the right packages and dispatch plans whenever a Flex event occurs, which is good because it means that anytime a facility manager takes the time to sit down with us, it basically guarantees that they're going to be able to participate, they're going to be able to earn, and they're going to be able to generate revenue for their company, which is pretty cool. Let's see, I think at this point, we're going to talk a little bit about our demand response numbers, like what does this all mean? What does it actually get us? How many people are enrolled? So let's go ahead and get to the next slide. Cool. Okay. So I'm pretty excited about this slide. I think it's very cool. As of the end of this most recent winter season, or summer season, excuse me, which ended in September, we have about 533,000 customers enrolled across all the programs and about 107, 108 megawatts of capacity, which basically means that over a few hours we could power about 65,000 homes. that's a lot of homes. I'm so excited about that. But I think the really exciting part of all this is we've rewarded customers for participating in these programs almost $4 million on incentives, which is huge. So it's not just the community taking action to make sure that there's reliable, repeatable resiliency across the service territory, so your lights stay on and everybody's happy and warm and healthy, but also you're getting that benefit back by participating. It's a pay it forward to yourself kind of scenario when you participate in demand response. And I'm pretty proud of everything that we've accomplished as a community together to get to where we are. So with that, I think it's time for me to pass it off to Malcolm to talk about time of use rates.
Great. Thank you, Tom. So this is the other side of the coin as we think about load flexibility. And so I wanted to take some time today to get you oriented to what time of use rates are, sort of the objective of our pursuing them, and a little bit of back story on a pilot that we've been running for the last 2 years. So time of use rates really are meant to encourage customers to shift their energy use out of peak to off-peak periods. And this is really done based on using time-based adjusted rates. So the objective is really to help us lower our system costs by reducing that demand from our customers when the price of providing that energy is expensive. And so very much like what Tom just described as it relates to the Flex program, there are defined timeframes. In the evening, it's 5 to 8 p.m. And then in some cases in the winter, we've been testing some periods in the morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. So again, the idea here is we want to be able to provide customers with more options as they think about the rates that they pay for the energy that they receive from PSE. And we also want to be able to promote the integration of renewables, and these demand side pricing signals do help with that approach. Let's go to the next slide. So here, just kind of give you a view of a journey that we took customers on as part of our demand response pilot that we initiated in October of 2023, and then just concluded at the end of September of this year. And we had 9,800 customers, both residential and small medium businesses, that were participating. And they went through a process where we sent them information about the rate options that they could participate in. They were able to go online and see personalized bill comparisons. So to understand what a new rate would result in as far as either savings or not, and some of the choices that they could make to reduce their cost. And then after they signed up, we submitted to them condition or additional communications along their journey to just help them get some coaching on things that they could do to maximize the value of being on that rate, as well as some alerts if their rate was, or their cost was coming in higher than what they expected. And the outcome of all of this was we had really great enrollment from customers. So we looked at a benchmark of the industry standard. It was about 3% of customers would enroll. We saw about 5% enrollment, so a great result there. And customers really liked having that personalized rate comparison information. 94% of them said that was a key for them to enroll in the program. And then they did take action using and taking advantage of the tools that we provided on the back end. The initial results, as I said, looking at what the customers' participation was great. We did have about 5 to 11% of peak demand reduction from customers during the time of our peak season. And for one particular rate, which was a 3-tier TOU, which had a super off peak, and this was really aimed at EV drivers, so that they could charge their vehicles in the middle of the night. We saw a 20% shift in their energy usage. On average, customers that were on TOU saved money, and that they also not only shifted their usage, but many of the customers actually reduced their energy use, so saw additional savings from energy changes. Let's go to the next slide. So there's a little bit more depth about the communication tools we use. And again, we wanted to be able to provide customers very personalized, relevant information to help them succeed on these rates. Again, there was an email that welcomed them to remind them what the peak periods were, give them some details about how they can make adjustments. Then weekly, we provided them with coaching, let them know how they're doing, how their costs are starting to matriculate. We did a summary of their bill that allowed them to see, how much they saved on their new rate. And for those customers that set a high bill alert, they were able to get a warning ahead of time if their bill was going to exceed a threshold that they set. And again, the importance of all this is to sustain customer behavior and help them really be successful in shifting their usage pattern. About 68% of the customers who received the rate coaching emails from us opened them and reported that they used them to take action. Most of the things that they did to shift usage away from peak was modifying their behavior on when they do laundry, dishwashing, bathing, maybe adjusting their lighting and appliance usage patterns. But overall, it has been very successful. As I said, we just concluded our pilot. We are in a transitionary phase as we get ready to submit to our utility commission at the beginning of next year a proposal to open up time of use rates for all customers on the residential side. So really excited about the outcome. I saw some questions in the chat earlier about why aren't we following what Europe's doing. We're on that path and really happy to see that that is moving in a positive direction. So Annie, I think that concludes my slides here.
Great. Thanks, Malcolm and Tom and Heather so far. We've got a couple questions that we're going to try to answer quickly live. And then I know a lot of you have several questions on the chat and folks are in the Q&A pod. And PSE folks are going to try to type out answers for all of you. Okay, so first question is from Derek. How have changes in federal energy policy prioritization by the current administration, how could they affect these solar and battery programs?
I can jump in and answer that question. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we are seeing the elimination of the residential tax credits for solar, and that will impact our customers. PSE is doing everything we can to make sure that we're able to help customers who are trying to beat the end of year deadline for those tax credits to get their projects installed before the December 31st deadline. But unfortunately, we do expect that customers who are trying to install solar after December 31st will no longer be eligible for those tax credits.
Thanks for that response. And then a question from Jacqueline. Is there a reason that the Flex Rewards can't get applied to your PSE bill and rather is distributed in gift cards?
Yeah, great question. We're investigating that. Right now it's gift cards and we're working on making it an iterative improvement to expand the number of options that you have. Timing on that is TBD, but I want to acknowledge that that's a real thing and we're working on figuring out how to make that work.
Okay. Great. And then I'll do one last one before we move to the next section. So would you consider programs to give free smart devices to turn off demand at home if you participate in Flex and meet income criteria?
Yeah, would you mind repeating that question for me?
Yeah, question from Betsy. Would you consider a program to give free smart devices to turn off demand at home if you participate in Flex and meet income criteria?
Yes. Stay tuned.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for those quick responses and your presentation so far. We'll keep us moving because we still have lots more to cover and about 25 minutes left. So we're going to move into customer solar opportunities and Heather's going to start us off on this.
All right. Thank you, Annie. All right. So if you could advance to the next slide, please. Over the years, we've heard from our customers that they want options for supporting both directly and indirectly different types of renewable energy projects in our region. We started off with a lot of programs in the match space. We probably best known is our Green Power program, which allows folks to match a portion or all of their energy with a portfolio of renewable energy generated here in the Northwest. We also then added our replace programs, which really allow customers to replace a portion of their energy with energy generated by a specific solar or wind project. And the best example of this is our community solar program, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then finally, we have products or services available to those customers who actually want to generate some of their own energy on site. I'm going to really spend my time here today focusing on both the replace and the generate side of this slide. So next slide, please. Starting off with community solar. So we launched community solar a few years ago, and this is really a product that is designed for those customers who want to directly support a renewable energy project and again, replace a portion of their energy with the energy generated by one of these projects. And maybe they don't have the ability to install solar at their own home for any number of reasons, or they don't want to, or it's just too much of an investment. So community solar allows them to subscribe to a share from a local community-based solar project, and then receive bill credits for the energy generated by that project. Each share is $20. And then they, again, see a credit on their bill related to the actual production from that from their share of that project in the given month. And for each share, it's 1.46 kilowatts. And just to put that in perspective, that's roughly 1/10 of the average residential customers. That would be enough energy to offset 1/10 of the average residential customer's electric load in our area. Okay, next slide, please. Similarly, we have set aside shares from our community solar program for income eligible participants. So same program, only we have a subset of the shares that are actually dedicated to serving these income qualified customers for no cost. So they can participate without paying the $20. They can sign up for up to 2 shares, and they will save up to $240 per year on their electric bill. To qualify, a customer or a household must be at or below 80% of the county median income or 200% of the federal poverty level based on household size. So try to put that in perspective. A 4-person household in King County would qualify if their income is at or less than $121,000 a year. So those customers can go onto our website and do a calculator to determine if they're eligible. And if they are, as I said, they can sign up for up to 2 shares, assuming shares are available in a project at the time. Next slide, please. We currently have 8 projects in 8 community solar projects in operation throughout our service territory. You can see those identified here. We have projects, 5 projects in Western Washington, everywhere from Bellingham down to Olympia. And then we have 3 projects in Ellensburg. We have another 3 that are in active development with more in early conversations. So we do plan to continue to build out this product and make more shares available for customers, both in the income eligible space and general participants as well. Next slide, please. So now I want to get into the generate side of the equation. And PSE is now has in operation several programs that really allow customers to have on-site generation and to safely interconnect those systems and then receive bill credits in one way or another for the energy that they send back to the grid. How does this work? Well, you have solar on your home, on your roof. And basically, when you are using more energy than your solar is generating, then the power is flowing through your meter and into your home. And when you are generating more than your home is utilizing, that power can then flow back through the meter and onto the system, and you'll receive a credit, a financial credit in one way or another for that energy. the different programs provide different forms of that financial benefit. So if you can move to the next slide, please. So I'm going to start with net metering, and I saw a lot of folks in the chat had mentioned that they were a participant in net metering. That's great. And I also know there's some questions about the future of net metering, so I will cover that. But basically, net metering, for those of you who don't know, allows you to install solar on your home and receive kilowatt hour credits for the energy that you send back to the grid. In the Pacific Northwest, what we see is that a lot of our customers generate excess credits during the long summer days where the sun is shining a lot, and maybe your loads aren't as high. You don't have as many lights on, you don't have heating loads if you're electric heating. And so more of that power is flowing out onto our system where you're generating that kilowatt hour or net meter credit. Those credits are then often utilized in the winter months when the days get shorter and we enter the big dark, as we like to call it here. And that solar isn't generating as much, but your household is probably using more energy. So this is a real advantage for folks, again, because it allows them to take those excess credits and then utilize them in the winter months. And then the bank of credits resets on March 31st of each year. So the design of this program is really to offset your energy use or match as closely as you can your own energy usage. Next slide, please. So many people are asking about what the future of net metering looks like. As some of you may know, there is a state law that says that utilities should offer net metering to customers until they reach a certain threshold. That threshold is 4% of 1996 electric loads. PSE did meet our 4% threshold a year ago now. And we have continued to offer net metering and plan to continue to do so for the foreseeable future. And until such time as basically the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission approves a new rate schedule. Once we've filed that, we have not filed an ask to move away from net metering, and we will continue to offer it for the foreseeable future. Currently, we're engaged in state level discussions regarding what the future of net metering should look like, and we're waiting for the outcome of those discussions. I did see some questions in the chat regarding how we're going to handle existing net metering customers. And while I can't commit to anything about what the future for existing customers look like, we do believe that there should be some form of grandfathering for those customers in the future. And that will all be dependent, again, on the stakeholder engagement and regulatory process to determine what exactly that looks like. Next slide, please. Moving beyond net metering, one of the programs that we're most excited about is our multi-occupant solar program that we launched earlier this year. One of the things we heard a lot from tenants or customers living in apartments or condominiums is that they wanted the opportunity to benefit directly from solar that might be installed on their property by their property manager. And so we designed a program that allows those property owners or managers to share the financial benefits with their residents or tenants directly on their bill. So if you're living in an apartment building and solar is installed, now that solar can be distributed to each of the tenants residing in that building directly, as I said, as a financial benefit on their bill. Next slide, please. Similarly, we've offered the solar energy credit program, which is designed for commercial customers. So this is for larger solar rooftop installations and is a little different than net metering, where net metering provides a kilowatt hour credit. Solar energy credit provides those commercial customers with a financial credit for any power that they put back onto the grid. And that's at a value of currently of 6.7 cents per kilowatt hour. All of these programs you can go back to the next slide, sorry, on the enhanced incentives. One of the things we recognize is that there are a lot of groups or individuals who don't have access to the benefits of solar. There is a barrier to entry. It takes an upfront investment to get the benefits of solar. And so we have really worked to look at how we can instill more equity. We talked about income eligible community solar as one way of bringing more equitable access to solar, but we've also launched a number of grants and financial incentives for projects that serve community-based organizations, governmental agencies, and tribal entities serving historically marginalized communities. Basically organizations that where the savings from that solar can really bring greater community benefit. And so we'll offer up to 100% of the cost of a system, up to $250,000, depending on the type of project and the size of that project. And next slide, please. We've been offering grants and incentives since 2017, and we're really excited that we've been able to award over $5.3 million to over 75 projects totaling 2.5 megawatts since we started. And this is everything from food banks to tribal buildings to senior centers and other community service agencies. And again, the savings from these projects really help those agencies or those entities to provide more benefits back to the communities that they serve. Next slide, please. I think that was all, but I'm sure if there's questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Heather. I think you answered the ones that I had for flagging to answer live, but there was one outstanding one I don't know if you fully covered. One question from Therese: do you see having some incentive to encourage those of us participating in net metering, encouraging us to invest in some sort of storage for our rooftop solar?
We do have a, Tom talked about flex batteries, and there are incentives for installing a battery and participating in the flex battery program. And actually, I believe there are some slides coming up on that.
Great. Wonderful. And then thank you all for putting questions in the Q&A. PSE is working hard to get those responded to in writing. And just because we have such a full hour, we're going to keep trucking along. So I'm going to hand the mic back to Malcolm to take us through battery storage opportunities.
Great, thank you. Good to be back with you all. Let's go to the next slide. So just want to level set about battery storage and what we believe is really a great use of these resources. They're key to our energy resilience and flexibility. Really, they allow our customers to store energy, use it during outages if need be, and also to support the grid during peak demand periods and other periods of stress on the system. Let's go to the next slide. So first off, we have a residential flex batteries program that is available today. You know, this program is really designed for, as we talked about, customers that have energy storage systems to get rewarded from PSE by participating in flex events, which Tom talked about earlier. A customer can earn $1,000 for enrolling their battery in the program, and then we'll get additional incentives for participating in flex events throughout the year. And really the way that we look at that is it's really predicated on the energy discharge from their battery during those events and getting compensation for the kilowatt hours that they provide in that performance perspective. We'll go to the next slide and talk a little bit about sort of thinking about non-residential battery storage. And we've done a couple things here. And really, again, the focus on these non-residential battery systems is to help businesses and commercial facilities manage peak loads, integrate renewables, and also enhance the reliability of their facilities. And we've been doing a series of different demonstrations throughout our service territory to understand the different aspects of which would be most applicable. We did in 2019 install a battery at our PSE Service Center to simulate what the opportunity is to reduce sort of demand costs for a facility. In 2023, we installed a community microgrid. So this is a battery that's connected to a small solar generation, as well as 3 homes and a fire station. And so when that system has, or that circuit has an issue where they might have an outage, that battery can then support that it islands and can support that community of folks. So really great use case, and we're seeing, obviously great results from that. And then also PSE is seeking proposals for batteries to be interconnected to or near specific substations. So again, this is looking at how we might be able to leverage more larger battery systems that will allow for our system to be backed up and provide a reduction in cost to upgrade our distribution system if need be. Let's go to the next slide. So vehicle to everything is a term that's out there. And so just, it's not lost on us that, vehicles are, essentially moving batteries. They have the ability to send energy from the vehicle to multiple use cases. And so some of those use cases that PSE is most interested in is the capacity of getting energy from the battery back to the grid, but also using that energy to supply back to a home or a business. And there are these 3 use cases that PSE is currently engaged in doing some demonstrations. If we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about those. So for vehicle to grid applications, we are currently commissioning and will bring online 6 vehicle to grid fast chargers at 2 of our school districts that have electric school buses. And really exciting to have those up and running. Our school districts see a lot of benefit in having electric school buses to reduce, diesel particulate around their schools and easier operations. But for PSE and the customers, these buses sit for a long time idle at their facility with a full charge, especially in the summer where we have a higher cooling load that is coming online. And so we think this is a great way to test how we might be able to leverage, a portfolio of these school buses to bring capacity back onto the system. The other thing that we are finishing our installations of this year are 3 sites that we're installing vehicle to home installations. And so again, this is really looking at how that vehicle can supply energy back to the home in the case of an outage. And really the focus of this year is just get these sites online. We do have additional expectations next year to have a couple more vehicle to home applications, as well as install some vehicle to building applications in 2026. And this will really allow us to make sure that we have a good understanding of the technical requirements. We can assess which vehicles and charging equipment can best interact with our virtual power plant, which is the mechanism in which we're able to dispatch different events. We want to make sure we're standardizing the interconnection protocol because these are systems that can feed energy back onto the grid, and we want to make sure it's done safely for our staff as well as the public. And then just be able to assess various dispatch options. What are customers' preferences? Is there a compensation framework that works the best? A lot of really great learnings that we expect to have, and this will build towards a future opportunity that we will bring to the market. And I saw some questions about where are we heading. We're right in it right now and learning a lot and excited about what the future brings. So I think that is the end of our battery conversation.
Great, thanks, Malcolm. And I did have one question that we were going to answer live from Jeremy. So it says, many households have a thermal battery, aka water heater. Is PSE offering an incentive for customers to switch from gas to an electric tank with CT 2045 or other control interface?
I'm going to ask my colleague Tom to tap in and see if he can answer that one.
Well, I can certainly try. So the question's about thermal storage, yeah? Okay. So right now, the only thermal storage programs we have are Flex Water Heater. That is through a CTA 2045 port, or if you have one of those newer hybrid water heaters, or just one of those electric resistance water heaters that provides Wi-Fi connectivity, you could enroll without a CTA 2045 module. Right now, if you know that you have a CTA 2045 port on your water heater, you could go to the PSE marketplace and order one of those modules. They're really, really easy to install. You take a plate off of your water heater, you plug in the module, screw it in, it automatically turns on, you walk away, you live the rest of your life, you get paid for it a couple weeks later. It's super straightforward. Outside of that, TBD. I don't want to get over my skis and talk about potential, but right now the only thermal storage programs we have right now for load flexibility are through water heaters. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Tom. And I did have one last question since we have a few moments left from Betsy for Tom or Malcolm. Have you approached emergency management agencies as a use case for using vehicle batteries for emergency power? I can repeat that if you'd like.
No, that's fine. I think that
Okay.
is a use case we're aware of. We haven't yet engaged. I think one of the things what we have anticipated, those facilities are now bringing on some electric vehicles. So I think that's one of the things we're going to be assessing as we approach this commercial vehicle to building approach, because we do think it, from a perspective of resiliency, especially in emergencies, that's an area where we want to be able to support them. So great use case.
Thanks, Malcolm. Great. Well, before we close out, I'm just going to ask the audience one more question and put it in the chat. And so your responses just waterfall in. Oops, that was wrong. When I meant to copy and paste something else. Sorry about that. So as we think about future planning of customer programs, are we missing anything? So is PSE missing anything that you think that they should be considering? Maybe you have experience with another utility or region, and if so, please share your ideas in the chat. So went ahead and put that into the chat and would love to see your responses waterfall in as I begin to close us out. So feel free to go to the next slide, Claire. Okay. And if you didn't, and just a note on your questions, if you didn't get your question answered verbally, you should see a response in the Q&A pod in typewritten form. If you don't see that, it will be included in the follow-up. So please be patient, but our PSE folks did a really great job of answering as many as they could live. So just want to say, we've talked a lot about today, and obviously all this work doesn't stop here. So there's a bunch of ways that you can stay involved in the ISP process. We've got several hyperlinks included in the deck that is linked on the website, and we can include that here. So you can join the email list to stay in the loop about future planning and updates. You can visit the Integrated System Plan or ISP website to explore more about this process. You can participate in future webinars or resource planning advisory group meetings as an observer. And of course, most importantly, we want you to be sharing your ideas, questions, and feedback. And another reminder, we have another meeting tonight, the same exact content. We're just going to be doing it again at 5:30 for folks that need an evening time to join. And you can go to the next slide. And if you think of anything else that you do want to follow up with, please go ahead and use these forms to reach out to PSE. So you can email them at isp@pse.com. There's a feedback form. Let's go ahead and link that in the chat. Looks like Emily might have already done that. If not already, please go ahead and do so. There's a feedback form in there you can fill out and submit online, or you can leave them a voicemail at the number on the screen. And this is also included on the deck of slides on the website. So just want to thank you all again, and thank you to all our amazing presenters for being part of today's session. You'll receive a follow-up email with materials and responses to the questions that we didn't have a chance to get to. And then we hope to see you at a future meeting. And one last plug is when you exit this meeting, you will see a pop-up poll. And there's several questions asking you about your feedback from today. We love to see that feedback so that we can improve future sessions. So thank you all, and we hope to see you either tonight or at a future meeting. Take care, folks.